Hello and welcome to another episode of Police Beat. I'm Officer Ben Tobias, the spokesman for the Gainesville Police Department. Sergeant Sin is unable to be here this month, so joining me today as co-host is Detective Matt Geckel. You may remember Detective Geckel from last month's episode on fraud prevention. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Ben. And we're glad you could join us for today's episode. We're going to be talking about a new bicycle initiative and also discussing the problems of excessive alcohol use.
Gainesville is known for being friendly to pedestrians and bicycles, and we are always looking for additional ways to make our roadways safe for everyone, no matter how they choose to travel. We have recently been working with the city's Public Works Department to create the Bicycle Boulevard program. The program is designed to be a visible reminder of how bicyclists can travel safely and how vehicle drivers can share the road. Let's take a look.
Part of the city's comprehensive plan is to make people more multimodal, meaning that they're using mass transit, their bicycles, walking even, and getting them out of their personal vehicles to help ease congestion on our roadways. The Bike Boulevard is being designated as what the Department of Transportation calls a share lane, because it is shared with the bicyclists as well as the motorists. So there'll be additional signage out there, bright colored markings, notifying the motorists, bicyclists are sharing the road with you, so be aware. And then also the bike box, the first one that we installed is there at the corner of 2nd and 13th Street, right there at the University of Florida campus, where we've seen a lot of bicyclists, and that's going to help them safely maneuver those intersections and get out ahead of the vehicular traffic. And the way that those bike boxes work is there is a green box between the stop bar that vehicles are supposed to stop behind and the crosswalk area. And this is going to make it even safer for the pedestrians crossing the crosswalk as well, because the vehicles should not be encroaching into that green box to allow the bicyclists to get in there and stage first. So when that signal turns green, that they're able to get out ahead of the traffic and get through that intersection before the vehicles do. The bicyclists would enter into the green box area and pick the particular area that they want to go, whether it's a through lane, a left turn lane, or a right turn lane, or some occasions here in Gainesville we have a through lane with a turn lane. But get in the appropriate lane that you're going to make that traffic movement. And there is no need to press any buttons or anything, because we do have a camera that is picking up any vehicles within that bike box area, which of course hopefully are only the bicyclists. And then from there, they just have to wait for that green, and then they will be prompted to go ahead of the traffic, since they are staged ahead of them, to make their turning movement and enter that intersection and complete that safe movement prior to the vehicles coming through. They really need to adhere to the red hand and the walk signals. The bicyclists are considered a motor vehicle in the state of Florida, so they need to be prepared to stop and allow those bicyclists in the vehicular traffic, just as if it was a group of motorcycles or cars staging in that area. So really no change for them, just to adhere to those pedestrian signals. They really need to pay attention to where that stop bar is and where the crosswalk is, and that green area is really a no man's land for them. So currently we do not have a state statute that discusses those bike boxes, but really they need to be stopped at that stop bar, which is part of state statutes. And be aware that bicyclists may be coming around them while they are stopped, and not to be edging up or putting their vehicle in reverse, because those bicyclists are going to come around them to stage in that bike box area. Well, we continue to build different bicycle paths in the area, as well as this new bike boulevard, to make the area safer. I believe we were silver rated as the city of Gainesville for bicyclists, and we're looking to get that up to a gold or platinum level in the future by continuing these enhancements as funding becomes available. This is well received by the public and well used by the bicyclists, that we may continue to see more bike boxes in the area. Both of these initiatives were brought about by the City Commission, which is part of an overall plan to enhance pedestrian and bicyclist safety here in our community. Well, currently our bike boulevard is on Southwest 12th Street, and we plan on installing a couple of others, one on 3rd Avenue, another on 5th Avenue in the future as funding becomes available. The only bike box that we currently have is there at that intersection of Southwest 13th Street and Southwest 2nd Avenue. And that is a very heavily used corridor for bicyclists. And the bike boulevards, what we do is we run them in a parallel situation such as 13th Street, where we don't have the availability of placing these traffic calming additions for the bicyclists and the pedestrians out there. So we're trying to keep them as close to major arterial roadways as we can. We're planning on a meeting sometime before this summer to help educate the public, as well as motorists and any interested commissioners or anyone else that's willing to come and attend and learn more about these new facilities that we're placing. And people will be able to transverse east to south, south to north, east to west, whichever direction they went on their bicycles with the new bicycle corridors, these new bike boulevards that we're placing. And of course, we're always encouraging them also to use public transit whenever possible.
As you can see, we are making great strides to ensure that all of Gainesville's travelers can get around the city safely, no matter what mode of transportation they choose. After the break, we're going to talk about an issue that affects a large part of our college-age population: excessive alcohol use.
By nature, college towns have a vibrant nightlife. Gainesville is proud to have a very large and active nightlife. Alcohol is generally present, and sometimes the bar patrons don't know their limits. Gainesville police officers see a host of problems directly related to excessive alcohol use. Recently, our midnight shift officers have started more of an education role in the downtown and midtown areas. Let's take a look at how we're taking a different approach to a common problem.
Alcohol levels are ever changing. As you all know, if they've been drinking, they could still be going up. Their body hasn't reached saturation yet, so their blood alcohol level can continue to rise after a while.
Throughout the fall and the spring, Midnight Shift has been putting on a variety of details to try to help curb or address the excessive drinking that goes on in the midtown and the downtown areas. There's a variety of details that we put together to basically help inform the patrons or the public, and also to partnership with the establishments and try to get their help and try to explain to them the issues that we're dealing with and how they can help us with those issues. And then also there's an enforcement leg to it, to enforce the current laws that are on the books to ensure that everybody's in compliance. Our town has a higher percentage of people who go out and drink on a regular basis and drink to excess. All towns have the same issues, they're just in different percentages based on their population. So here in Gainesville, we have a community where we have a large number of people who are of college age or drinking age or just below the drinking age. And so their attitudes towards drinking and activities associated with drinking are less conservative than other communities or other age groups. So we have all of the other issues that go along with that, because they then become victims of various crimes because of this activity. So as law enforcement, it's not just about enforcing the law, it's not just about getting the drunk driver or getting the person who's causing a disturbance or a fight because they're intoxicated. It's about protecting everyone so that they don't become victims of the various crimes. And if we can get ahead of that and educate them a little bit and help them not become victims because of that, that's what we strive to do. One of the education details we do is we call the PBT, or portable breath test details, where we send teams of officers out throughout the midtown and downtown areas and ask people to voluntarily submit to a breath test to see how intoxicated they are. And this data gives us a lot of indications as to where we need to go with our education program, as well as where the problems may be existing. We also partnership with Health Prevention and Wellness Coalition which is a nonprofit organization aimed at curbing excessive drug use, excessive alcohol use, and overall wellness. And they are the ones who have donated materials like the trailer that has the television in it that we use for the public service announcements when we're doing these portable breath tests. And we have a questionnaire when we ask these folks to submit to a breath test that asks general questions. We don't ask for their names. It's totally voluntary. We don't want their names. We do ask, however, if they're under or over 21, and we ask what their drinking habits were prior to taking the test. And then we administer the test. And the test gives us an indication of what the average level of intoxication is for the patrons who are downtown and midtown, but whether they're already intoxicated before they come to the clubs, or are they sober when they come to the clubs and they get intoxicated as they're leaving the clubs. So where that level is, and what we found with the levels is most are over the legal limit on their way into the bars and the nightclubs before they even leave. So they have been drinking pretty decent amounts of alcohol prior to getting to the clubs, and if they continue to drink while they're there, they're that much more intoxicated when they leave, which would explain why we find so many people afterwards, after they leave the bars and are trying to make their way home, passed out in bushes, vomiting, and not able to care for themselves. In the state of Florida, 0.05 is when the presumption of impairment begins. 0.08 is when it's illegal to drive. So anything over a 0.08 would be illegal to drive. But anything between a 0.05 and a 0.08 is when the law recognizes that it is presumed that you have a level of impairment. And how impaired you are and how your ability to drive is affected all depends on how much impairment indicators you show when you're asked to do a field sobriety exercise. It also gives us the opportunity as police officers to have positive interactions with the citizenry, and here we are telling you what your alcohol level is without arresting you. You're not under arrest, you're not under arrest for DUI, and we're telling you, look, you're a little intoxicated here, you need to be concerned. A lot of the safety tips that you should have when you go out is, one, have a designated driver, and a designated driver meaning someone who's not going to drink at all, someone who can be responsible for everyone else in their party. At the same time, if you have a lot of people who like to get pretty rowdy when they party, you may want to have more than one designated driver to round everybody up and make sure everybody gets home when they're going home. Just being together in a group is not enough when you're drinking, because everybody's senses are diminished and their decision-making abilities have been diminished. So not everybody's going to make the right decision, and being in a pack or in a group may just make all of you more vulnerable to become victims instead of one or two people. If you're going to go out to the clubs, make sure you have your faculties about you and you have people that are there that are going to look out for you. The best defense to this is education on the part of the patrons. When we do the PBT details, a lot of the patrons are surprised that their alcohol level is as high as it is. The activities that they've been engaged in the drinking activities, they seem to believe that, oh, I've only had a couple here and there, and I'm okay. And it's not necessarily about driving, it's about having all of our faculties with us when we go out. When I was a detective, I worked sex crimes, and I can't tell you how many cases I've worked where young women and some young men get themselves into a situation because they drank too much and wound up things happening to them that they didn't really know that they were involved in. They knew they were involved in it, but they didn't have the will or the power to stop it or get away from it until they sobered up later, and then started thinking more about what had happened to them and started feeling the injuries and the effects of what had happened earlier, and then wound up reporting it to us later. A lot of those cases are hard to solve, and a lot of them are hard to prove in a court system. So because of the state of the victim, We still investigate them to the best of our ability. We still bring charges against these individuals, but you have to protect yourself when you go out, and excessive drinking is definitely not the way to protect yourself.
As you can see, we are making great strides to ensure that all of Gainesville's travelers can get around the city safely, no matter what mode of transportation they choose. After the break, we're going to talk about an issue that affects a large part of our college-age population: excessive alcohol use.
Another alcohol-related problem that plagues every city is the problem of impaired driving. All too often, folks have a drink or two and think they are safe to drive. They get behind the wheel of a car, and before they know it, they end up in a crash or pulled over by an officer. Those few drinks were all that it took to push them over the legal limit. Let's take a ride with DUI Specialist Officer John Kaprowski to see the dangers firsthand.
Officer John Kaprowski of the Gainesville Police Department. I'm the nighttime traffic safety team DUI officer. Well, the DUI enforcement position is part of the traffic safety team, and what we're trying to do is be on the roads, and stop any safety violations before something bad happens. Just like the daytime, we look for speeding, people running red lights, stop signs, things that are going to put the community at risk. He was traveling over 100. We're slowing down towards the intersection now. But one of the differences between the nighttime and daytime shifts are, nighttime are more predominant for DUI drivers. This position was created to detect and enforce DUI laws specifically due to the amount of traffic accidents, either serious bodily injury and fatalities that were occurring, and this is a way that we're addressing this issue, is to stop them before they're actually happening. Well, one of the common misconceptions people have is when they go out and they have a few drinks, alcohol tends to make you feel good, and that's why people drink it, which leads to poor judgment. When you're feeling good, you think that there's nothing wrong with you and you can drive. That's a misconception on everyone's part, because the more you drink, the more impaired you get. Your normal faculties decrease, your ability to make judgments, to judge distance. Driving is a complex situation. I mean, you have to be aware of your surroundings, you have to stop for red lights, stop lights, stop signs, you have to use the gas, you have to defensive drive, as well as operate your vehicle in a safe manner. Alcohol diminishes that ability. Even though you might think that you're okay to drive, we see indicators that you're not, and that's what we are out here judging people on. We have to make sure that they're okay to drive, and if they're not, we need to get them off the road.
Can you be around 9656?
10-451. Well, the first DUI we went to, we were called to the scene by Officer Tatora, who stopped a gentleman on a scooter for weaving all over the roadway. As a DUI officer, I'm available to any officer that needs my assistance. She made contact with him, he showed obvious signs of impairment, and he became aggressive, so she wound up placing him in handcuffs because he became a flight risk. Upon arrival, she requested that I come to the scene to evaluate him. So as we get there, he's very uncooperative with the investigation, did not want to perform it. People need to understand that just because you don't want to cooperate with the investigation does not mean that we are not going to enforce the law. There are other telltale signs of somebody other than the field sobriety exercises to show that they're impaired. One is their demeanor. This gentleman had an aggressive demeanor. He has a history of DUI driving. He's been arrested before, so he kind of knows what's going to happen. Just because he doesn't participate in any of the investigation does not mean that we cannot make a determination based on the level of their impairment. Subsequently, I made the determination that he was impaired and he wound up being arrested and he's going to go to jail. refused the breath test. Now his license is automatically suspended for 1 year for refusing to take the breath test. And those are the consequences that he faced, even though he did not want to participate at all. When a person is, stopped with possible suspicion of DUI driving, they're going to be requested to perform field sobriety exercises. These are designed to let the officer have some interaction with the subject to see if they are actually impaired or if there's another reason of why the occurrence is, why their driving pattern was so bad, or whether it was a vehicle malfunction or something like that, to rule that out to see if either that was the issue or if they're an impaired driver. Depending on their performance of field sobriety exercises, if they perform poorly, they're going to be arrested for driving under the influence and requested to take a breath test. After they see the judge, it's up to the judge whether to release them or issue a bond at that time. Depending on whether they refuse to take a breath test or if they blow, they're going to lose their license for a period of time. These are consequences that everybody takes while they're drinking and driving. Next gentleman that we observed was coming westbound on University Ave. He was traveling a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone, and radar confirmed that he was traveling 46 in the 30 miles an hour speed zone. How's it going? You got your license, registration, insurance card?
I got my permit.
What's that?
I got my permit.
You got your permit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You got a licensed driver? I'm going to step right up over here for him. Where you heading to?
My friend lost his ride from this party, and we're gonna go pick him up.
Okay. Okay, have you had anything to drink this evening?
No, sir.
You been smoking weed? You haven't?
Cigarette.
Definitely. What were you just doing?
We were just sitting at my friend's house watching a movie.
Do you know your shirt's on inside out?
Yeah. My
You know it's on backwards?
They called us and said his friend left him and he has no ride. And my friend came up and he was like, "Can we go pick him up?" And I said, "I guess so." And I'm saying we're just watching a movie.
Very slow.
Thanks. I need 38 routine with you.
Demeanor, his eyes are completely dilated and they're not responding to light at all. He just has that high look about him. So we're gonna run through some field sobriety exercises. When we stop someone, we have no idea where they're going to stop. Some people stop immediately, some people pull in parking lots, some people will just stop in the middle of the road, some people pull on the sidewalk. Are you any pills, prescriptions, medications of any kind? Nothing like that? You say you're not on any drugs or anything like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you mind performing a few field sobriety exercises for me?
Yes, sir.
And that'll be okay with you? Okay, what I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna stand right back here with this officer. I'm gonna pull my car up here, light up an area that we can perform those, okay? So if you'll stand over here, and we have to go into an investigation. We try to find a parking lot, a gas station, a sidewalk, somewhere out of the roadway, out of harm's way to perform the investigation. Plus, we don't want any extra things, for them to worry about. We want them to perform, to the best of their ability so we can get a proper evaluation of them. All right, first thing I'm gonna have you do, I'm gonna have you stand, see where that light is? I'm gonna have you stand right there. Put your feet in the light, and I want you to put them all together. See how mine are heel to heel, so side by side? Relax your arms at your sides, okay? All right, see that red light? What I want you to do is I want you to stare at this red light, okay? I want you to follow this red light with your eyes and your eyes only, okay? I don't want you to move your head at all during this exercise. You understand that? Okay, so go ahead and stare at the red light for me. This one. This gentleman not only had the signs of alcohol, but he had other signs of drugs in his system. And obviously you could see it in a person's eyes, but when he performed on field sobriety exercises, it was plainly obvious, that his normal faculties were impaired. He cannot mentally and physically do something. He couldn't even hold his balance while he was just standing there. So he performed poorly, wound up being placed under arrest and, went to jail for the night, and he's gonna have to answer that to the judge in the state attorney's office for the actions that he took. One thing that society has come to, this is a poly-drug use society nowadays. It's not just the you know, going to the bar, we're not just looking for the alcoholics that are falling out of the car when we pull them over. There's prescription drugs, there's illicit drugs, there's narcotics, there's multiple drugs that people get impaired on. As this happens, we keep up with our training, which allows us to detect those signs of impairment. Think about what you're taking and what you're putting in your body before you get behind the wheel of a vehicle.
Please make sure that you have a plan before you drink. Never make the choice to drive if you even think you are impaired. It's not worth the cost or embarrassment of getting a DUI, and it's certainly not worth potentially losing your life or taking someone else's.
Well, that's it for this episode of Police Beat. Be sure to find us online on Facebook or Twitter, or by visiting GainesvillePD.org, where you can watch previous episodes of the show.
We will always value your comments on the show and encourage you to contact us with any suggestions you may have for future topics. We have aired viewer suggestions in the past, so please let us know what you'd like to see on the show.
Join us again next month for another episode of Police Beat. Another alcohol-related problem. Remember what I told you about not reading ahead? See, victim of my own thing. Nightlife. Gainesville is proud to have a very... I'm expecting to see Matt spring off the wall now.
We are aired future... Yeah, I went out of order and I thought I was going to be able to...
I know, I did too. I was right there with you.
Why don't you come with me?
Yo, what are you doing?
Nothing, man. Just having a little fun.
Come on, man, she's drunk.
We're just a little bit buzzed, that's all.
She's more than just a little buzzed, dude. Look, she can't even stand up.
It's not a big deal.
Come on, let's just get her out of here. You'll thank me later.
Dude, come on.